Commission for the City of Marshfield. I'll call the meeting to order. Secretary Miller, will you do the roll call?
Certainly. Rosendich?
Here.
Caprillion?
Here.
Banker?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Council President Paschal?
Here.
Hockenich? We do have a quorum. And Golden is absent today.
Okay. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes from the May 18th, 2021 meeting. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Pinker and a second from Mr. Rosendich. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, please vote. Or do a roll call, I guess.
Do a roll call. It shows up.
I forgot that already.
That's okay. Rosendich?
Yes.
Caprillion?
Yes.
Banker?
Yes.
Johnson? Paschal?
Yes.
Hockenich? Motion approved.
Item number 4 is citizens' comments. Are there any citizens here that wish to make a comment? Any citizen comments? Seeing none. Item number 5, a rezoning request by Megan Daleski to rezone the property located at 1033 South Adams Avenue, parcel 33-06971 from SR3 single family residential to MR12 multifamily residential. Presented by Bryce Hembrook, City Planner.
Thank you, Council President. So the applicant is looking to rezone the property to MR12 multifamily residential. The current use is a in-home daycare, which for that land use, it's when a daycare holds 4 to 8 children. The proposed land use would be a group daycare, and this would allow for the applicant to watch over 8 kids, and this would also be regulated by the state. So the property used to be used as a group daycare up until recently. They had a conditional use permit and it was void because they stopped using that land use for, I think it was like 2 years. And anytime that the land use is discontinued for 365 consecutive days, the conditional use would become void. So that's why we are here today. If the rezoning is approved, there would be a conditional use permit that would be required in order to have a group daycare in the MR12 district. So group daycares are only allowed in a few of the zoning districts. Almost all of those are commercial except for the MR12 and MR24 district. So staff looked into several options into what the applicant could do and determined that MR12 would likely be the most suitable district in the neighborhood. That way it wouldn't have to rezone to commercial. And also, the other suggestion was to maybe look into a municipal code amendment as well. The future land use map in the comprehensive plan recommends that this is a medium density residential area. So this is generally intended for single family, 2-family, and townhouses. However, institutional land uses and other small intensive land uses that have a public benefit would be appropriate. So the multifamily district is generally for residential land uses. However, in this case as well, some institutional and low intensity commercial uses would be allowed. This land use became a non-conforming use after the 2013 zoning code. Staff believes that the property could have or should have probably been zoned NMU or MR12 originally instead of SR3 because by zoning at SR3, the land use became a non-conforming use. This land use has been on the property before and there have not been any issues that we have heard of. Rezoning the property to MR12 could potentially open the property to multifamily development. However, due to the type of existing structure that they have and the money that's already invested, the chances of becoming multifamily is pretty unlikely. Also, they would have to get a conditional use permit, which they plan on doing right away, so they would be held to that permit as well. So staff believes that the request is in line with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan and that the proposed use would continue to provide a public benefit to the neighborhood. As you can see on the screen, that is a picture of the building right now. It wouldn't really change on the exterior at all. It's looked like that for a couple decades. And so when you drive by, you can barely even tell that it's used for something other than, you know, a house or a small scale institutional land use. So with that, Plan Commission has 3 different options. They can approve the request, They can deny the request, or they could table the request for further study. And the recommendation from staff is to approve the request and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Public hearing.
Are we doing the public hearing right now?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to comment on this matter, please come to the podium and state your name and address, and you may comment.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Megan Zaleski. I'm the property owner. You just head up 1033 South Adams Avenue. So I'm requesting the change. So I've been there 2 years and I've been running a licensed family childcare from there. And my wait list is growing tremendously. So I'd like to meet the need and expand and take some more children. So that would require me changing to a group childcare. So that's what I'm requesting.
Anyone have any questions for Megan? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I
Mr. Rosendich.
motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second by Mr. Krapilian. Is there any discussion? I don't see Mr. Okanek.
Steve, are you there? Doesn't appear to be.
Okay.
Do a roll call.
Another roll call vote.
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion,
Yes.
Banker, Johnson, Paschal.
Yes.
4-1, motion carried.
Okay. Item number 6, presentation and discussion on 2022 to 2026 City of Marshfield Capital Improvement Plan presented by Dan Connect, the City Public Works Director.
Thank you. Our capital improvement plan has evolved in recent years to include more than just our traditional infrastructure and bricks and mortar type projects. We now have expanded to include more of a major spending plan, which has items like vehicles and equipment, technology, both hardware and software purchases, and some major recurring maintenance like our crack filling and seal coating. It was really expanded to get a better handle on some of our major spending from year to year. You have the entire list in your packet tonight of all the projects for the next 5 years, but tonight I just want to focus on those that involve some significant infrastructure projects, streets and some parks projects. But if you have questions on anything else, I'd be happy to answer those. And then we're mainly going to focus on the 2022 projects because those will wrap right into the budget process, which will be kicking off, which is kicked off already actually. And those projects are pretty well set then to move into a 2022 budget. The remaining 4 years of the CIP plan tend to get reshuffled each year and are less locked in, this you might say. So with that, I'm just going to hit some of the projects, and I think we have a few slides to show. So in going in order here, this is a reconstruction on Lincoln Avenue from Adler Road to 5th Street. Right now, that's a rural section with ditches, and the plan would be to reconstruct that with curb and gutter and sidewalk on both sides. We do have some state and federal funding on that will help us with 80% of the cost of that project. It's already under design. We started that this spring with some consultant services. The project is currently, we're on schedule to have it ready for construction in 2023. As part of the DOT's program, it's not programmed until 2024, but we've had success in the past by getting our design done early. If somebody else's project isn't quite ready to move ahead to bidding, then we can slip in there and take advantage of the available funding. So we want to have it ready for 2023, although it's not programmed in DOT's letting schedule till 2024. The next project is 17th Street from Maple to Peach. This is through our fairgrounds. This again would be converting a ditched street to curb and gutter with a sidewalk. This is a high pedestrian area, especially at certain events, fair time and other events at the fairgrounds. And this has been on our radar for a long time, finally coming up for construction in 2022. This one is 100% city funded and is currently under design by city staff. and we hope to be out for bid for this in early 2022. Next few projects are some sanitary sewer reconstructions. We normally like to work these in conjunction with a street improvement, but we do have, from time to time, we have standalone sanitary sewer replacement projects, and there's a handful of them throughout the CIP, 3 of them proposed for next year, a short stretch on Franklin Street. We have a block on Cherry Avenue, and then a few blocks on Arlington Street from Lincoln to Schmidt. And those would really just consist of replacing sanitary sewer main and laterals to the homes. Often the water utility will chime in and do some water main work at the same time, and then we patch whatever is disturbed in the street. So it's not quite a total reconstruction, but we do end up improving the street surface as well in those types of projects.
Dan,
Yes,
on that Arlington reconstruction from Lincoln down to Schmidt,
yes.
when that's done, is it going to be blacktop or is that going to be concrete again?
It's a concrete street with curb and gutter. Normally what we do in a street like that is we'll take out the concrete in the middle and replace it with asphalt. Okay, let's see, where are we then? So before we head into some of these parks projects, I wanted to mention a couple other large projects we have on the list, and that's our asphalt paving program. And you'll see that in each of the 5 years. We target $2 million a year for asphalt street surfacing, and there's 2 main strategies we use that money for. The first is putting asphalt overlay on concrete street. You've been up by McMillan Street lately, you'll know we've got a project going on right now to put asphalt overlay on concrete street between St. Joe's and Central. Last year we did McMillan from St. Joe's the other direction on Highway 13. So that's about half of our asphalt paving program is spent on that type of a project. The other half is what we call our Mill in Place program, and it's targeted toward our residential subdivisions. These are ditched streets, and typically the project scope would be ditching as needed, replace driveway culverts, drain tile in the bottom of the ditches, any sewer water repairs, but then the existing asphalt gets milled in place, kind of ground up with a big grinder. You've seen these out on the interstate projects. And then a new asphalt surface gets put on top of it. So again, about half of our asphalt paving program goes towards that. We target about $2 million a year. So in this 5-year plan, we have just over $10 million that's targeted for asphalt paving program, trying to catch up on some of our deteriorating street conditions. With that, we'll go into some parks projects. This is a fun one. We've got a trail project on Adler Road to extend the trail from the First Presbyterian Church area down to Weber Park. This is a project where we secured some federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program. Again, this provides 80% of the cost, the rest funded by the city. This one is a program for 2024. We'd be looking to get some consultant services going in 2022. The next one is a smaller project at the Project Park parking lot. This is down, got them out of order here. This is a S.J. Miller retaining wall. The retaining wall and parks and ball fields around S.J. Miller were constructed when Veterans Parkway was built back in the early 2000s. And we've got some retaining walls that are starting to show their age with some leaning and some loose brick on it. So this is a project the Parks Department will be doing to restore those retaining walls along the outfield there at S.J. Miller Park. Now we're on the Project Park parking lot. This is across from Wildwood Park on South Central Avenue. This had been a wayside back in the early days. Now it serves really just as a parking lot for the Alano Club there that's on the east side of Central Avenue. But it's been in bad shape for a long time, and the Parks Department plans to restore this in 2022. Those are the major projects for 2022. We don't have slides for the next few, but I wanted to hit on a few major projects that are coming up in future years. Whether or not they stick in the years that they're currently slotted, they'll be done eventually. So I just want to make you aware of a few of those. We have a couple of street reconstructions planned for 2023. A little stretch of Arnold Street west of St. Joe's, where we have, it's just past the patio restaurant there, or not an ideal restaurant anymore. The apartments, we have some sewer and water replacement. We're gonna end up reconstructing about 800 feet of street there. We have several additional standalone sanitary sewer replacements, Franklin from Central to Chestnut, Edison from Cedar Divine, and then a stretch of Chestnut from Depot to Blodgett. And then if you notice on the list, we have a pretty sizable project at the wastewater treatment plant planned for 2023 and 2024, and that's to address some phosphorus requirements that are coming down on our next permit. And those putting in a disc filter, a phosphorus disc filter. Sam at the plant right now is going through some trials to identify the right product, and assuming we find one that works for us, we'll have a major upgrade then planned for 2023, 2024 timeframe. Right now, he's estimating it could be in the $2.5 million range for the total project. We jump ahead to 2024. We have a small reconstruction planned on Vine Avenue from 2nd to 4th Street, along with some sanitary sewer work in that stretch. Probably other utilities will be replaced as well. And then we have sanitary sewer replacement on Walnut Avenue from Depot to Blodgett, and the second year of that wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Finally, then in 2025, we are starting to look at 5th Street between Oak Avenue and Chestnut Avenue for reconstruction. And we have a couple more sanitary sewer replacement, standalone sanitary sewer replacement projects. So that's kind of a quick overview of our major projects in the next 5 years. Happy to try to answer any questions.
Billion.
Dan, can you explain the priority column on the packet we've got?
Yeah, so I can try. It's we end up having most of our projects being priority one. If they're not a high priority, they don't make the initial cut. And we struggle each year to try to balance these out. But priority one is really trying to maintain what we have, existing either programs, infrastructure, just trying to keep up with what we have. Priority 2 and 3 are introducing new programs, new projects, new initiatives, something that we didn't have before. Those end up being a little bit more.
I see. One more.
Go ahead.
What entity controls the viaduct at Lincoln and 13?
That's a railroad structure. They maintain it, they operate it. If there's interest in I assume where you're going with this is interest in improving that crossing there. It would be very difficult for the city to initiate a project on that. The railroad would say, and they've said this before, it works fine for us. And so unless we want to come up with some money and it's a big money to change it, it's probably going to stay that way for a while. But to answer your question, the railroad control.
So right by Congressman?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I will mention though, one thing that a narrow and short viaduct does is prevents truck traffic from coming down on Lincoln Avenue. And trucks that try to sneak through there get caught.
Literally.
So if it was bigger and wider, you might have more trucks trying to sneak through it.
The benefit.
Any more questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Item 7, alternative sign permit request by Christy Steinle to allow for an exception to the size requirements and the required distance of projecting sign may protrude from the building located at 630 South Central Avenue, parcel 33-01734, presented by Emmett Smikowski, Associate Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Paschal. So the property in question is located between West 6th and West 7th Street at the intersection of South Central Avenue at the former City Hall building. The area is primarily zoned downtown mixed use, and the property is just outside the downtown design corridor, which has separate requirements regarding sign design standards. The proposed sign is an internally lit 273 square foot signs. It will include spaces for multiple tenants and advertise ownership of the building. The proposed sign could meet the definitions of a projecting sign, marquee sign, or a roof sign. A projecting sign is limited to 32 square feet and are allowed to project no more than 6 feet from the building. All marquee signs must be approved through an alternative sign permit, and roof signs are prohibited. A staff feels this sign more closely resembles a projecting sign or a marquee sign because it's above the covered entrance to the building and does not protrude over the parapet of the building as a roof sign would. However, marquee signs are typically parallel to the building, so staff is classifying the sign as a projecting sign. Because the property is outside downtown design corridor, the sign has no special design standards or requirements. Within the downtown design corridor, signs are required, or projecting signs are required to be externally lit. The sign is going to be interior lit. So there are currently 5 existing signs on the building. The owner has talked to the businesses. All of them expressed interest in removing the existing signs from the outside of the building, except Hefco Floral. The sign code limits a property to 2 square feet per linear foot of street frontage, and this property would be allowed 418 square feet of signage. With the existing signs on outside of the building and the proposed sign, the property have a total of 354.5 square feet and would not be required to move any of the existing signage unless additional signs are requested or the Plan Commission feels it is necessary. The proposed sign is quite large and located within a busy area, and staff had to question the structural integrity of the sign. Stratford Sign has stated that they're currently working with an engineer to ensure the sign will be structurally stable and mounted properly. Staff is requesting that confirmation from an engineer is sent to our department prior to installation of the sign. With that said, staff's recommendation is to approve this alternative sign permit with the following conditions. The proposed projecting sign may be permitted to have an area of 273 square feet and is permitted to protrude from the wall it is attached to by 13 feet. Certification from an engineer that the sign will be securely mounted to the structure shall be submitted to the Development Services Department prior to the installation of the sign. Minor site plan changes may be approved administratively, provided they do not need additional exceptions from the sign code or from any conditions approved with this alternative sign permit. Thank you.
Do I hear any motions or there's some discussion?
Question on the sign. Is that a stackable sign in at some point? They get more tenants because they got 5.
It looks like the plans proposed had 4 spaces on
4
it.
spaces. I mean, do they ever plan on getting more tenants?
I'm unaware if they plan on getting more tenants.
I know, I'm just saying, I didn't know how that would work, in the future, how you guys would handle that then with if it's a sign you can keep stacking on, and is that gonna be a problem?
Hi, Dan Drexler, Stratford Sign Company, 110 Connor Avenue, Stratford. So there would be some permanent supports that would run horizontally in this sign, but then there would be some adjustments that if there was more tenants down the road that they could be adjusted to accommodate the additional tenants. The size of the sign would primarily stay what we have suggested, and the changes would be within that. So it would not become any bigger down the road, I guess would be
My point going more towards for the tenant or the owner of the building at the back, or if the city shuts them down on us, now we got to redo the whole sign. I'm leaning more towards that, looking out business. From that makes sense.
Yeah, and there is some flexibility built into that sign to do that.
So that was the only reason. I didn't know, like I said, for you guys down the road, if that's an issue, with that. I understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I get that part of it. I'm just asking more as a business owner, that type.
Dan, why don't you just stay up there for a second?
Mr. Pinker, you have a question?
I'm going to pose a worst-case scenario for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a curiosity. What if the engineer comes back and says, my work says you cannot mount that sign on that building? What's plan B?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. From my past experience, I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm not concerned about that, but that could happen. And I think the more importantly is the sign does not project out past that rooftop. And, I'm pretty certain that that rooftop is engineered to withstand, snow loads and things like that. And although the sign is, it may be considered to be a larger structure, the weight of that sign is not a whole lot in terms of, I'm sure what the roof is built for. So we didn't really get into any of that until the sign was going to be approved here. But, from our past experience, we feel that it's going to be something that's going to be, will fall within the means of what an engineer would feel would work.
Okay, thank you for that information. I'll address the question next to Emmett.
Sure.
If the same situation I'm talking about occurs and we cannot have the sign there, what is your suggestion? Does this move into some sort of pylon sign, pedestal sign? What's the alternative?
Oh, whatever they propose. I mean, if it comes back engineer saying it's bad, I won't issue a sign permit because that was a condition on the alternative sign permit.
Right, but what is the plan B? What other type of signage could be put in there?
Well, they could add up, they have plenty of room to add more signage. I mean, they have enough room to have this 200 or 273 square foot sign. They could add another wall sign if they have another tenant. There's quite a few options for them. And if there is something odd again like this, they could come back for another alternative sign permit.
Fine.
We took a look at a few different options there. And, because of the way that there isn't a lot of green space between the building and the sidewalk, we felt that we tried to design the sign that would fit a more traditional building. And, and the building is somewhat of a landmark downtown here. It's been here for a long time. It's a big building. And so that's, we designed it because we felt that that's what fit the building the best. Because anything else as far as a pylon sign or a pole sign out front really doesn't work at all. So if plan B were to happen, I think we would have to go back to Christine Dave and talk to them and figure it out. But I think wall signs are really the only other alternative. And, and we feel that something up above here that would be two-sided would be much more effective than the wall signs. And that's why we proposed what we have. You bet. Thanks.
Any further questions or comments?
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Okay. Okay, motion by Mr. Capillion and a second by Mr. Pinker. Roll call vote, please. Or any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Rosendich,
Yes.
Caprillion,
Yes.
Anchor,
Yes.
Johnson, Paschal.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item number 8 is another alternative sign permit request by Stratford Sign Company to allow for a wall sign that exceeds overall sign area requirements located at 1810 North Central Avenue, parcel 250-260-324-9976, presented again by Emmett Simkowski, Associate Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Paschal. So this property is located on the north side of the city. It is located northwest of the intersection of McMillan and North Central Avenue. The surrounding area is primary commercial mixed use, and there is some light industrial to the north. Okay, so the proposed sign is a 318 square foot wall sign, and wall signs are limited to 10% of the building facade or up to 200 square feet. The facade of the existing building is 1,274 square feet as measured on scaled building plans for that. Which would allow the total square footage of signage on this to be 127 square feet. The building also, it's not square shaped. It has more than one facade facing south. And if you measured that and counted that in, it would be 1,904 square feet and would be allowed 190 square foot of signage. Also with this one, the applicant is proposing a total of 3 signs. A large wall sign on the southern facade, a smaller wall sign on the eastern facade, and refacing the existing pylon sign. The small wall sign and the pylon sign have already been permitted, have been issued permits because they meet Chapter 24. So considering the total allowed signage per 2 square feet of linear frontage, this lot has 324 feet of frontage and is allowed 648 square feet of signage. So the total proposed signage on this parcel is 538 square feet and still be under the maximum allowed signage. Plan Commission has approved similar alternative signs to this in the past within the North Central Avenue corridor where high traffic volumes and speeds may hinder visibility. Due to the type of the building, location of the sign over the front entrance, and location of the building, staff does not feel the appearance of this sign will become overwhelming if this request is approved. Thank you. Staff's recommendation is to approve the alternative sign permit request with the following conditions. 318 square foot sign is permitted on a southern facing facade of the building, and minor site plan changes may be approved administratively, provided they do not need additional exceptions from the sign code or from any conditions approved with this alternative sign permit. Now, thank you.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Or motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rozovich to approve the sign. Second by Mr. Pinker. Any further discussion? I just have one question, Emmett, or Marshfield. How's this sign compared to the Sears sign that was there previously? It looks like it's about the same size to me, but.
The sign is a little bit bigger than what the Sears sign was there, but, would be, and there's some additional lettering underneath as well, too.
Okay.
And this is something that the customer has come to us, and this is their brand standard, and they have more, I'm not sure how many locations they have, but they are a franchise, and they do have additional locations, and this is what they have. They came to us with this plan, and they were saying, this is what our brand standard is, and this is what we would like to do. So, and as Emmett had mentioned, it's not going to be anything that's overwhelming. There's been some signs that have been approved with, approximately the same square footage and everything in that area out there. So I think it'll be fine. And but it is a little bit bigger than the Sears sign that was there. Get back to your original point.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call vote.
Rozendich? Yes. Pedestrian?
Yes.
Pinker? Yes. Johnson? Peschel?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item number 9, a review of items under Wisconsin Statute 62-23, paragraph 5A, a request by the city of Marshfield for consideration and report of the proposed city subdivision. Presenter Josh Miller, Development Services.
Thank you, Council President. As I'm sure most of you have heard by now, we are working on a city subdivision project. And this is a 23-lot subdivision that has already been platted. The plat was approved back in 2004, which predates our current subdivision ordinance. So the city has identified housing as a major need, and we looked at ways of addressing that. We've been looking at that for a number of years. And one of the things that we've been hearing and hearing from realtors and employers is that we need housing for, the higher end scale, 250 and larger, and we also need affordable and starter housing. We were able to make the return on investment calculate out by addressing the higher end housing first. And the way we would look to address affordable housing would be through the use of a mixed use TIF district, or possibly tax credits, or working with a larger developer on some other type of affordable housing. But so the reason this is before the Plan Commission is, as the chairperson read, 6223, which is state statute, which requires a Plan Commission review and report on any project that extends infrastructure, including road and and utilities. So this would be basically 3 new road segments in the community. So on the west side, you'd have Cypress, which would go from 5th Street up to Andrea Street. And then Andrea would run east and west about 500 feet and then loop back to 5th Street on Birch Avenue. So it would be a loop street system. The only access would be off of 5th Street. This would include full utilities, which would include sanitary, water, storm sewer. The layout has already been, like I said, approved back in 2004. So there's a number of easements and other encumbrances. There's a restricted access off of Lincoln Avenue for if you go back to the plat, please. The northern 3 lots along Lincoln Avenue cannot access Lincoln Avenue per this plat, so they can't can't have a driveway, we can't access off of that, so they have to access off of Birch Avenue. The only access off of Lincoln would be the one lot in the southeast corner. And that's just because there's no access to any other street, so there would be access off of Lincoln. There's other utility easements along the south edge of the property of the subdivision. There's also a stormwater drainage easement to the northwest corner that ends up going. The stormwater pond for this subdivision is off the corner of Sycamore and Adler on the northeast side of the plan. So there's an existing pond that will be converted into a water quality pond. So right now it's a quantity pond. So have to convert it to a quality and quantity pond because of the new regulations that have been put into place since this plat was approved. Additionally, the sanitary lines will basically connect at the intersection of Andrea Street and Cypress Avenue. And same with the stormwater inlet. There is an easement that runs across the property to Sycamore. So there's a 30-foot wide easement that's established, so the mains would connect from the existing subdivision and connect onto Sycamore Avenue. So really as far as how this fits in with the comprehensive plan, last year we looked at this area, and part of the future land use map was changed from low density residential to medium density residential, which would accommodate a higher density. Some of it remained under low density, so it's kind of a mix right now. And whenever you look at the future land use plan, it's not intended to be parcel specific. And so there's a flexible density that would be allowed. This is an existing plat, so we're not proposing to change it. So anytime you do a subdivision or a rezoning, those should be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Well, the subdivision's already taken place. We're not approving a subdivision here, but we are reviewing it against 6223, and you always check what the planning documents say. So staff feels that this does still fall within that range of density, and it does, in the future land use plan, it does identify single family, and that's what's here right now. The comprehensive plan also recommends that we follow the current housing study that's on the books, and the housing study does encourage development of homes at 250,000 or greater, and does encourage subsidizing homeownership in the plan. The one area where that the comprehensive plan does encourage is sidewalks connecting to existing sidewalk network. Here, we're not proposing sidewalks simply because these are local roads and these are basically two cul-de-sacs. I believe there's only one cul-de-sac in Marshfield that has a sidewalk, and that's East Side Circle off of Peach Avenue. I believe for the most part, the rest of them are ditched and don't have sidewalks. It will be graded for sidewalks, so if in the future the residents of this neighborhood would petition for sidewalks, they could do so. I think there's a certain percentage of the neighborhood that has to agree to it, and then they would cause the sidewalks to be installed. There's a situation with one of the driveways off of Birch, though. It's a very short driveway. It's about 10 feet. If you put sidewalks there, any cars parked in there would be obstructing the sidewalk, which technically isn't allowed, but it makes it more obvious and more awkward because otherwise you can't park a car in the driveway. And right now they are into the right of way, but it's not obvious because there's no sidewalk there. So that's on the interior loop of the subdivision. And having double sidewalks seems a little bit of an overkill for something like this when you're talking 23 homes. Most of the neighborhood that are local streets in that area are all basically ditched and don't have sidewalks. The streets that do have sidewalks, well, part of Sycamore does have a sidewalk south of 5th, but going to Adler, there's sidewalks on both sides of the street. And then Collector or greater, minor arterials and that. Those make sense to have sidewalks because the traffic volume is greater and in some cases the speed limit is greater. So basically, that's the proposed project. It's not a go yet. We are still hoping the project is out for bid. It won't get a final approval until probably July, if bids come back favorably and within budget. So we're working to pre-sell the lots, and if things come back favorably, then we're hoping to have the subdivision open up by fall to get some basements in the ground before winter. So this has been reviewed by the council and the Economic Development Board, and generally, supportive of this project, and hopefully we can continue moving forward. But at this point, we're looking for any additional feedback that the Plan Commission may have before council would make a final decision on moving the project forward.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Josh, I know I mentioned this to you before. I'm just really concerned about the one lot on Lincoln that's going to have access to it. I know I mentioned this to you a couple weeks ago. I'm a little concerned about the driveway that's going to come out, which I believe is going to come out very close to, would that be 4th Street that comes up the back there? As well as, have you ever considered to make the other 2 lots a little bit larger? Because I feel that that lot's going to sit empty and we're not going to get a tax base out of it until it actually gets a house on it. So my feeling is I would rather have a houses build than a lot just sit empty. Has there been feedback from your builders that that they're interested in that lot?
It's a good question, and I think that lot is always has been a challenge. I think the other alternative would be to remove the lot and extend the other 2 lots further east so that you have deeper lots. But lots that are narrow and deeper probably are not a whole lot more appealing, and then they would have frontage on Lincoln, and then they might be facing special assessments and having to shovel their sidewalk from a back lot. So what Dan talked about, that Lincoln reconstruction will probably likely have sidewalks on both sides of it. We have similar situations on McMillan and East Side Circle where people have to shovel their backyard sidewalk or they don't have access to it. So they either have to pay someone to go shovel it or walk all the way around a block. In my situation, I have a corner lot, so I can just walk on the street and shovel it. Sure. They don't really have access. They either have to follow a path through their yard. And it's really inconvenient. So having more lots accessible to Lincoln on the backside is probably more of a detriment. I do think this will sell. I don't know that it'll sell prior to Lincoln being reconstructed so people can see what's there. But it is a sizable lot. A lot of people do live off of Lincoln. There's homes across the street on Lincoln. There's homes south of 5th Street on Lincoln. So this might be the last lot to sell, but I do think we also put this at the lower price range too. So I think that will help. We may have to discuss some negotiating on the special assessments as that street's put in to look at that. I totally understand your point, and if we were redesigning this subdivision, there might be some changes we would make, but we've looked at it a few ways and tried to come up with different routes or layouts to try to be more efficient and get more lots out of it. And there's not a whole lot more you can do to get that many lots with the way the streets come in. So,
thank you. Next, I just want to clarify on, so there's not going to be curb and gutter, or I should say sidewalks coming in off of 5th into Cypress into Birch. So it'll be just ditch for those neighbors that already have homes there, correct?
I believe it will be curb and gutter all the way to 5th Street.
Okay.
So there just won't be sidewalks. So it'll be great for sidewalks to connect to 5th Street at a later date if they so choose. But right now there won't be any ditch.
And then will their house will we be reassessed because of the curb that they'll have in front of their house now?
They won't be assessed for the curb, but what they will be assessed for is the driveway apron that they will be replacing. So there will be an apron piece from the right of way.
That's an upgrade. So basically their house value will go up a little bit.
Pretty minimal, but yeah.
A little bit.
Possibly.
You know how much that is? I'm getting that question. I just want to.
And Tom Turkey.
That's my district. I know that.
Yeah, we have a neighborhood meeting on Thursday with, we've invited all the adjacent property owners and those interested in the pre-sale. Tom, I think, is doing something with special assessments, figuring that out. We'll know more once the bids come back as far as what that will cost. They've had many projects throughout the years that they can probably say, okay, it's going to be about this range for that. But we're talking only 3 driveways in that situation.
Right.
Honestly, we know that affects property owners, but I think there could have been an option to assess them for the street work at one point as a side street, and that would have been a considerably more dollar value, but we know that any kind of impact is always challenging.
And then with the construction in the backyards of the houses that are along 5th, the other concern is for their tree lines and how they're going to be affected. Are those neighbors going to be notified, like, hey, that tree is actually in this lot, so we're going to pull that one, so on and so forth, or that's yours, don't worry. I mean, these lot lines are obviously, some people don't even know where their lot line is.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be restaked. Part of the process, once we have to restake it because it's been a farm field. So obviously the pipes that have been in there probably aren't where they should be or have been removed. So the intent would be we'll restake it and it'll be flagged so people will know. But yeah, as far as removing trees, those are the kind of conversations that we want to have on Thursday with the neighbors. So the intent is to have, people that are the builders that are buying the lots, will be hopefully present, with the neighbors that have concerns or know intimate details about that property.
I would say my only communication to that is extra communication.
Yep.
The more information you can give them, the better.
Yeah, and
That's what they don't want to be, is in the dark. That's what they're telling me. So.
No, we appreciate that feedback. And really the neighborhood meeting was something that we talked about internally and said we should really do that there was no requirement for that, but we felt city project, we did want to be transparent and upfront with what was going on. So we send out mailings to everybody that is abutting this property, and had some people call and ask about it, and I think some people email asking questions. So I think hopefully we get a good turnout.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion?
Josh, where would the neighborhood meeting be held?
It'll be held in this room on Thursday at 5:30 p.m.
And there's no action. Okay. Anything further?
Thank you.
Okay, item 10, discussion on the City of Marshfield Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan presented by Bryce Pembroke, City Planner.
Thank you, Council President. We've been working on the bicycle and pedestrian plan since spring of 2020. Pretty much last year we were working on the background information, working with stakeholders and cycling advocates through some virtual meetings, and now we're kind of getting into the public engagement section, or part of the process. So tomorrow from 6 until about 8 p.m. at the Wildwood Station, we'll be having an open house. I'm not sure if it will take 2 hours, but we have that scheduled for 2 hours just in case. This will be an opportunity for city staff to kind of go over the plan, go over the purpose of the plan, talk about some of the proposed routes, some of the proposed policies and programs that we're going to be recommending as part of this plan. Then also to answer some questions from the public, as well as receive some comments and suggestions. The bicycle and pedestrian plan website is up and running. I included that link in your staff report. The website provides a brief overview of the purpose of the plan, and there's also a survey as well as an interactive map segment. So we definitely encourage you guys to take the survey as well as leave some comments on the interactive map. You can identify some routes that you commonly take. Maybe, you can identify if there's any areas of concern, if there's any potholes, along a trail that you would like addressed. You can leave a comment on the map. That way we can use that as part of our field work. So I definitely recommend taking a look at our website. And then, we've had about 6 stakeholder meetings so far. We've met with a cycling advocacy group about 3 or 4 times over the past year. This group consisted of about 25 to 30 people, and some of the individuals were a part of the Marshfield Friends of the Trail, the Marshfield Clinic Cycling Club, the Marshfield High School biking team, mountain biking team, and then also some other interested citizens, as well as representatives from the sports den. So we've received quite a lot of feedback, and so a lot of people are kind of excited to participate in this plan. So if you're available tomorrow, I definitely recommend to show up once again at the Wildwood Station from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Also, we're planning on starting some pop-up workshops starting hopefully the end of the week or next week, Monday, depending on weather. Basically, for about an hour, staff would go out to some of the trails or parks to try to get some feedback from the people that are actively using the trail, ask them what they like about the trail, what they dislike, maybe offer some suggestions, and then also encourage them to take the survey as well. The plan will be reviewed by this commission, the Board of Public Works, Common Council, as well as the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee. So probably in the next couple months, we'll be bringing forward a draft plan to this body. And the target completion date would be October 2021. If there's any questions, I can try to answer those. Thanks.
Any questions for Bryce?
No, I think this is a really exciting planning project, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback so far. I think Bryce has done an outstanding job in getting the public engaged and in participating in this process. I know that's a big thing. To have a good, effective plan is to do public engagement, and I think we've, really kind of stepped it up and made sure a lot of the stakeholders and other groups were involved that needed to be, and certainly would encourage anybody that has an interest in this to attend tomorrow's meeting, and, just provide some feedback. I think this is a good step in really excelling our pedestrian network and bicycle and pedestrian network. So.
Okay, item number 11, an update on Marshfield Clinic Health System projects relating to the campus master plan. Again, Bryce Hember.
Yeah, so I unfortunately had a miscommunication with the Marshfield Clinic. They did kind of give a brief update, but they were not ready to present. So they will have information at the July meeting to kind of cover some of the projects that they'll be looking at over the next couple months. And then they will be amending the campus master plan either later on this year or early 2022. So unfortunately, no update today. However, they do have plans to discuss at next month's meeting. Thanks.
Okay. Item 12, items for future agendas. Anyone have an item they want to discuss? Okay, see none. Item 13 is staff updates. Josh, you take care of that? Nothing? Okay. That's good, I guess. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Rosendich, second by Mr. Perpillion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.